Back here on Media Row with a Syracuse alum who is crushing it in the biz, a few years removed from graduating. Noah Eagle joins us here for another great interview. And Noah, what's up with you? It seems like you've been running around like crazy since, the end of the NFL season, college hoop season. How are you doing right now?
Great. No, listen, I'm chatting with you guys. So what else could I possibly want in life than to do this right now? That is pretty much the pinnacle of my year. I look forward to this every year. This is year three, and I hope to keep getting asked back. So clearly something's working so far.
You're becoming a regular on the Z89 airwaves from Radio Row. Last year you were in person. Last year you had the slime fest at the Super Bowl. Can you walk me through, the evolution of those broadcasts since you first started them?
Yeah, I mean, it really is like a child becoming a man. It's like the slime zone and slime time and all of that stuff got bar mitzvahed at some point along the way and somehow just went out into the world and here it is. And so the first year was really just such an experiment and a blank canvas. And we really just tried to paint the outline and then really color within those lines as best we could. And then I think with each year, you realize you can actually go outside of the lines and you can really push the envelope a little bit and see what you can do and what resonates and what doesn't with audience members. But I give a lot of credit to that team, the Nickelodeon part of it, the CBS part of it, and everybody who had been involved, because really everybody behind the scenes does such a good job of really planning, excuse me, planning for months ahead of time of making sure that they're exhausting every option. I mean, for a lot of those broadcasts, they plan 12 months ahead of time and just figure out, okay, what can we do? How can we make it better? Or how can we make it more intriguing to young kids who had never watched football before? And then certainly having the characters. We never had that in the first 2 years, really doing it. And then slowly but surely, I think they started adding in some of the Nickelodeon characters and some of the voice actors that play them. And then eventually they became live, true parts of the broadcast with us and other broadcasters, if you will. So that was fun. But it is fascinating because it's this new world of these alternate casts that are becoming more and more popular. And so to watch, I think a lot of the other ones start to try to copy and a lot of the other ones try to maybe even find other ways of doing it. I think it's fun. So it's been cool to watch it really grow.
Yeah, imitation is the best form of flattery. And hey, your Syracuse classmate Drew Carter doing NHL with ESPN, and they're doing the same kind of things with alternative broadcasts. How cool is that? Just to see that something that you were a part of from its inception, at least the idea of doing these alternate, broadcasts tailored to kids and changing how the whole look of the broadcast was. How cool is it to see that it's offshooting and growing into its own genre in sports broadcasting?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a source of pride considering it stays in the Orange family, and anytime you can have that, it's a win. But I think that especially for that crew that I had mentioned, there's this sense of both pride and also you're not going to do it better than us. That's what I got from that group that was really spearheading the Nickelodeon stuff. But certainly overall, just to see the other forms of it, to see how it's spawned into something completely different than maybe what we had expected when we first started. That's obviously cool. And the hope is that you can continue to see it. And I think it allows people to showcase maybe a creative side that we hadn't seen before in this realm, in this space. And so if that's really what comes of it, then yeah, it's a huge source of pride for all of us involved.
As we get ready for Super Bowl 59, you obviously saw the Chiefs win their second in a row last year. Now they go for three straight. Are you surprised at all to see Kansas City back in it again?
No, not really. I think what I've learned over the last couple of years, and I've been saying it now for the last couple of years, is you never bet against Patrick Mahomes. I think that's the first part. When you've got a talent like that at quarterback, then you know everything else is going to be possible around him. But what Kansas City has done so well, and a lot of credit goes to Brett Veach, their general manager, who had the foresight to recognize, okay, we've got this all-time great, arguably the most talented quarterback, according to some, under center. And we've got him here for a long time. How do we maximize his window? How do we go about building a team around him? You knew you had Travis Kelce and while he's starting to maybe wane a little bit, he's still a big playmaker and he still shows up in those big games. And I think even the last 3 years, his numbers are still excellent for a tight end. So they knew they could give up on Tyreek Hill. They weren't going to be willing to pay him and essentially decimate the rest of their roster. And so what Brett Veach did, if you look back at the 2022 draft in particular, he went all in on the defensive side. And he had 2 first-round picks. He spent them both on defensive players that have turned into studs. Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis are 2 of the most impact players on their team on any side of the ball, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams. They drafted guys in late rounds that are defensive starters for them. And Najee Johnson is somebody who has stepped in and played major snaps. And then finding guys, you have to get lucky in some respects, but finding a guy like Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round of that draft. So a lot of credit to Brett Veach for how he built the team around Mahomes, because he didn't go out and overspend on offensive pieces. He also fortified their offensive line. They've got arguably the best center in the NFL now, with Jason Kelce retired and Creed Humphrey. I mean, the guy's an absolute stud. And Joe Thuney was one of the best guards in the NFL, arguably the best. He also had been one of the best centers at one point in his career. And now with injuries this year, he moved out to tackle, and he was one of the best tackles in the NFL. And so when you have 2 of the top 5, top 10 offensive linemen in the NFL, generally the rest of it, you can kind of cover up some of those holes, and schematically you can make it work. And that's essentially what Kansas City has done, and what they've given one of the best play callers, offensive play callers, this game has ever seen. And then they've put together a ridiculously elite defensive unit for one of the best defensive play callers this game has ever seen. And the other reason I think I'm not super surprised is because you've kept those 2 together. Andy Reid, you know what you're getting out of him, but specifically having Steve Spagnuolo there to call the defense. That's a guy who's won multiple Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator, one of the more creative blitz play callers, especially in critical situations, as we saw in the AFC Championship game on that 4th down. And I think the fact that he's not really looking at head coaching jobs, he's not really looking elsewhere. I mean, take the Lions, for example. The Lions, the last 2 years, awesome team. You lose both your coordinators, and now you really have to see what the identity of the team looks like. Kansas City really hasn't had to deal with that because you've kept your offensive and defensive play callers. So I'm not all that surprised that they're back here. It's kind of where they belong at this point.
Being here in central New York, it's Bills country adjacent.
Yeah.
And you definitely have the feeling that some people are sick of the Chiefs, although they're on the verge of making history. I even saw, one of your good buddies in the industry, Nate Burleson, going on the air and saying, everybody has to stop this narrative of being sick of the Chiefs. You should appreciate being in this moment in NFL history. Where do you kind of stand on that?
I think that that's sports. I think that we see that across all sports. I mean, think about the NBA. Everybody was saying, we got LeBron versus the Warriors again. And I think now if you said, well, would you want to see LeBron versus the Warriors? A large percentage of people would say, yeah, that was awesome. We loved when that was the case. Or when Michael Jordan was ruling the NBA and winning the Eastern Conference every single year. And people were like, all right, we're good with this. Would you like to see Michael Jordan against the NBA today? Probably, yeah. You'd want to see it. I think I was a long-suffering Jets fan through my youth and through my life. And so the New England Patriots rule was during my childhood. And Tom Brady's rule over the NFL was basically my entire childhood. And that's all I could remember. And all I could be saying to myself is, I can't wait for this to be over. And so I totally get it from people who have to deal with that. If you're a Bills fan, if you're a Ravens fan, if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, to a certain degree, at least they have conquered the Chiefs once and gotten to a Super Bowl. But if you're a fan of one of these teams, and then certainly if you're a fan of a team that's not even making the playoffs right now, and you have to watch this group because they're so good. And I think the part that's hard is, it'd be one thing if it was what they were initially when Patrick Mahomes took over, which was this dynamic offense that was going to score 40, 50 points in a game, and you just had to outscore them. It's not what they are anymore. They are a critical situation football team. They are get to the fourth quarter, big third down, they convert. Get to the fourth quarter, need a stop, they get it done. Get to the fourth quarter, need a field goal block, they're going to do it. Like, that's how they win games. And so that's even more frustrating, I think, because they look like they're gettable, but they're not. They're just so good in those situations that they find ways to win every time.
You got to cover some NFL this year. Another big year for you. Several new things in your career this year, but you had the new Netflix deal. Got to do the Christmas games. Your dad was a part of it. Talk me through, how that sort of came to be and how you remember that experience from this past year.
Yeah, it was really cool, and a lot of credit to NBC for allowing me to do it. They didn't have to do that, and they were very gracious about it. And so it was awesome to get to work with Greg Olson and to get to work with Steve Weich and Jamie Erdahl and our entire crew that day. It was a really well put together crew for a game that you're doing just once with everybody. That's just not normal. And I think that's probably the part that most people don't even realize is it's late in the season, and so everybody else that had been doing NFL, or even for my case, I had done 2 games in the NFL already. I had done week 1 in Brazil with Philly and Green Bay, and I had done that with Todd Blackledge and our normal producer, and it's our normal feel. And then I did a game later, actually the week before that Christmas game, we did Kansas City and Houston, and it was with Todd Blackledge and Catherine Tappan and our normal crew. And so you're comfortable, you're used to those people versus the Christmas game. It was brand new analysts, brand new sideline reporters, brand new producer, director, and everything in between. People I'd never worked with before. And that's a challenge for a one-off, but I thought we really handled it well, and everybody around me made it super easy for me. I mean, Greg is a football savant. He's like Rain Man of football in some ways. There are times where you can't shut him off. In our meeting, I was like, all right, Greg, what do you think? He's like, I'm just going to brain dump for a while. I just went 32 minutes on the game. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is insane. But you see why he's such an elite list. And same deal for both sideline reporters and same for our producer and everybody. So it was really, really cool to experience that. But to have my dad doing the first game, obviously special. And Christmas is about family. So if we can't be together physically, it was nice to at least somewhat be connected technologically, whatever. I don't even know how to say that. Technologically, I guess would be the best way to say it. But yes, it was cool to have that moment in kind of full circle.
Obviously, a little bit of a viral moment for you and your dad a few months ago, and you were talking through the relationship you guys had growing up, him being a broadcaster and you being, who knows, not knowing maybe what you wanted to do, maybe being a broadcaster in training. But how long have you been telling stories like that? Because I'm sure that's not the first time you've told a story of your dad telling you to make his bed and or your bed and it all developing like that. How long have you been telling stories like that about your father, and how cool is it just to always have him as a sounding board?
Yeah, I mean, the best. I would not have gone into this if I didn't have that level of relationship with him. I mean, that's the reason I think I was so drawn to it is we were so close, and I saw how excited he was every day to go to work and to go to an event and to work with the people he got to. And so for me, it was natural and osmosis that it kind of passed over. And I've gotten to this point now, and I think I have an even greater appreciation for everything that he did for me and really just how he's carried himself through his career. But it is, I do find the fascination with us fascinating. I think that a lot of people almost, I would assume, or at least from what I've heard, they think I'm like a clone. And I'm not. I'm really just a person. I can confirm I was born. I'm not adopted. I can at least confirm that part. But the fascination with us has been it's been interesting to see that. And even the fact the part or the story that you're referring to, I think, is the whole argument, quote unquote, that we would have when I was a kid. The craziest part about that is I didn't even think anything of it. It was really just us messing around and me and Sarah Kustak. That's what we do on Nets broadcast. But it got taken by all these accounts. And then I'm sitting at home just watching a show, trying to unwind over the stretch that I'd been through, which was the Kansas City Houston game, fly home for less than 24 hours, fly to Houston for Baltimore, Houston, and fly day of to do that Milwaukee game. I think I was more just exhausted and working on that. And so I just let it fly. And I got home and I was just sitting on a couch, finally trying to unwind over the last previous few days. And I get a text from a former coworker and he said, LeBron repost crazy. I said, what does that mean exactly? What code is this for? What is he referring? And I looked and LeBron put on his Instagram story the video of it. I'm like, okay, that's where we reach a different level of fascination. So I'm not sure where it comes from, but I'm certainly glad to have it.
How'd your dad react to that once it went way too viral?
He was shocked, I would say. He was more so, why? I think we both kind of had the, why is this going to this level? This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But he has now said, he's starting to get in his vernacular. Every time I call him, I'll be like, hey, what's going on? He goes, broken ankles and yokes. He liked that one. So we're going to use that moving forward.
Do you personally think you sound like your dad?
Yeah, at times. I think that there are the highlights and the moments where I get up are where I sound like him. And then otherwise, I think that just normal speaking, there are similarities, and intonations, I think, are incredibly similar, but the overall tone is slightly different. And a lot of people, when they've worked with him, let's say for years. I've worked with a bunch of producers that worked with him for years, or directors, whoever, and then they work with me years after, certainly now doing the Nets games. And I think the first game, a lot of people are like, I can't tell you apart. And then by the second game, they're always like, oh no, I can really tell you apart. So I don't know what it is, but there are certainly moments that we sound very similar. And then there are other moments where we don't. I take that as a huge compliment. I mean, I'm biased, but I think he's the best in the business. And so if people are saying I sound like him, that means I'm doing my job at a high level.
Going back to one of the biggest jobs that you've had yet, going to the Olympics and covering the USA basketball team. I'm in the Olympic sports management class now at Fall College, and when they asked me what my favorite moment from the Olympics was, I said this past summer, the Curry three. Your call is always going to be ingrained. What was that run like, calling those games alongside Dwayne Wade on the men's side, and just being overseas and being a part of one of the biggest events in all of sports?
Yeah, it's hard to really put it into words, and I appreciate the kind words about it. It was a whirlwind because you get there and you essentially get thrown right in the fire. And we had a lot of days, multiple games in a day, and you're just going day after day after day, and there's no real time to take the step back and reflect on any of it. And even for that gold medal men's game, so that's two. There are two games, I should say. The men's semifinal game against Serbia, where they're down 17 points, come back, win that game, crazy finish. LeBron, Curry, Durant basically lead them in the fourth quarter. It was awesome, and the energy was incredible. But then I had to turn right around the next day, and I had two women's games. It wasn't like I could sit back, because that game didn't end till late. I mean, I didn't get back to my hotel until 1 in the morning, and then I had to get ready for the women's games I had the next day, and I had two of them. And so there was no time for me to step back and say, what just happened? Let me think about that. Let me unwind. And so then same deal for the men's gold medal game. We had done the bronze medal game in the morning, Serbia with a huge win over Germany. And then we're doing, I mean, that environment is unlike any environment I'd ever felt or seen or heard in my life, because it's this US team and all the stars. It's a French team in front of their home fans, full arena, loud as you could possibly think. When they play the French national anthem for those Olympics, every single time, it was like you're ready to go to battle. They were belting it. Every single person in the arena is belting along to the lyrics. It was special. And so you have this incredible emotional high. And then again, I had to turn right around. And the next morning, it wasn't even like I had till night. I had to do the two women's games. I do the bronze and the gold medal women's. And so it wasn't even like in the moment I had time to really reflect on it. So it took me a little while, because I flew right back, and I go right into football essentially when I got back. So now, as the months have gone by and I really have reflected, my dad said it in the moment, basically right after all those games, including the women's gold medal game happened, which was a crazy ending, and the U.S. barely escaping with a win there. He said that those three games, the Serbia game and the two gold medal games, are probably the three best basketball games I might ever call in my career. And they just happened to be when I was, at the time, 27 years old. And so, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that happened in the second ever true non-slime NFL game, regular season game I ever did, was the the largest comeback in NFL history at 33 points. And so same deal. He was like, you'll probably call football for 40 years and you'll never get a game like that. And that's okay. But you have to at least appreciate what it was and how it felt and all of that type of stuff. And so to be there to see all of it, and to have Dwayne by my side and LaChina Robinson and our crew, was really special. Dwayne literally was, if you go back and watch the last Curry shot, he was on my back. He jumped up on my back as I'm calling it. And so it's like I'm giving Dwayne Wade a piggyback ride as I'm trying to call this incredible moment that just happened. And you don't know when they're going to pop up. You just hope that you're ready for them. And fortunately, we were locked in at that point. We were so excited and just running off adrenaline and emotion. And so it was really cool.
French Open, obviously Olympics in Paris. How's the French coming? Are you speaking pretty well French now?
Yeah, I mean, I did 40 days there. And so I thought after 40 days I'd be fluent. And guys, I am a French failure, as I like to say. I'm not fluent. I had enough where I could get by and I wasn't speaking full conversations, but I could at least get to the point where I garnered enough respect that they didn't look at me like dumb American. So I could walk in somewhere and I mean, I got elite at saying, Parlez-vous anglais, which is, do you speak English? I mean, I was elite. Look them direct in the eye. Bonjour, parlez-vous anglais? And they would give you a little, all right, you tried. So that was all I needed, that you tried. But I had some phrases in there. I got enough phrases where I felt pretty good about myself. And every now and then I would order food in French and see how I was doing. But for the most part, once the problem was when I would order in French, like I knew how to order and I knew how to say a couple things, but then they would start coming back with questions and I would just start going, wait. I would just start saying yes, and then things would happen that I didn't think was going to happen. And so then you have to roll with the punches because you're just saying yes to whatever they're saying. I realized that wasn't good either. So I found some kind of happy medium in between.
Yeah, I'm halfway to where you're at. We is the only word in my French vocabulary.
Yeah, you'll
Um,
get there.
I don't know. We'll see. I gotta do more international
Listen,
travel.
you'll be like Jim Carrey circa 2009. You'll be yes man, but in French. In
Oh my
French.
God.
Yes man. We
I think everyone wants to be Jim Carrey. That would be
Yeah,
that's
that's
the life
true.
right there.
Definitely
Last
94
question
Jim Carrey.
for me, Noah, just because I was thinking of it when you were telling me how Dwayne, you and Dwayne, the physical interaction on big calls in awesome moments. Because we always bust each other's chops here at WAER Z89, like, oh, he hugged me when he made that call, or he put his hand out when he made that call. With that, what would have where are the weirdest moments for you? You've been doing the play-by-play, or you've been calling the game, and your co-commentator, whether it's a physical interaction or a look each other you gave, any other moments like that that stand out, because we even have moments like that here at student college radio where
Yeah,
we
of
feel like
course.
we're doing some weird things.
Yeah, I think that everybody, there are a lot of times where maybe you guys have been joking about something beforehand and you then get on the air and you use that inside joke and then you both need to hit that cough button for like 37 seconds in a row because you're both laughing, but you can't laugh on the air about it, but you're both laughing off the air about it. Yeah, I all of that stuff. I mean, the Olympic stuff was so different because it was so intimate and the fans were right there. And Dwayne is an international superstar. And so everywhere we went, it was just crowds trying to get to Dwayne. There were French citizens, especially in the first week in Lille, which was a smaller area compared to Buffalo, basically. It was like the Buffalo of Paris. And so we're in Lille, and all of these random Lille residents found what hotel we're staying at and they're going out buying a Dwayne Wade jersey, bringing it to the hotel for him to sign, take a photo with, whatever it might like. This happened daily. And so with Dwayne, it was so different because of that. And because they were so intimately, they're right behind us. But that happens a lot in college as well, because a lot of these colleges, especially in the Big Ten, the fans are banked up basically right there. And so the amount of sometimes you'll hear something, someone's going to try to talk to you in the middle of you calling something. So yeah, you always got to keep your head on a swivel, I would say. But those Olympic ones were different. And if you go back in that same play, I have a screenshot of it where Dwayne's on my back. And then LaChina Robinson just came with us to watch the game. And she's literally, I mean, she had been silent the entire game because the whole idea is you want to be professional. You guys know this. And she had headphones in to listen to our broadcast. And if you look, she's literally jumping up and down in jubilation after that last one over the double team. And our on-site producer, David Gibson, has this stunned look on his face. It's like this classic where you just stop a moment in time and look at what everybody is doing. And so I almost want to get that photo blown up because it was so just crazy pandemonium. So I don't know if anything will ever reach that in terms of interaction with partners and things of that nature, but there's always something. I can guarantee that.
let's finish up, Noah, with NBA returning to NBC. What are you most looking forward to with that?
Hopefully, Round Ball Rock returning to its rightful owner. I would say that would be important, and I would love to deliver a basketball every now and then. I think that's just necessary. But listen, NBC and NBA were so synonymous for so many great years of the league, so many golden years of the league, and obviously through the entirety of Michael Jordan's run and Syracuse legend Marv Albert delivering just some spectacular move by Michael Jordan. All of that stuff is so awesome, and I think the nostalgia is going to be great for a lot of people. But on top of that, I do think that we can put our own spin on it. And the hope is that NBC is going to provide that same level of, and not even hopefully, but I know they're going to provide that same level of due diligence as they do with Sunday Night Football and what they've done for the NFL with Sunday Night Football and what they will do for the Super Bowl next year and what we've done for the Big Ten with Big Ten Saturday night and what we've done with our college basketball coverage. And I got really fortunate with my timing. I'm a huge basketball guy and I joined NBC and they're going to have hundreds of basketball games next year. And so it's a good time to be at the Peacock network if you're a basketball guy like me. And so I'm excited to see what they do with this modern version of the NBA on NBC. But I know everything they do is first class, so this won't be any different.
We're really excited to see what that team looks like. Mike Tirico, yourself here, and Reggie Miller is going to be involved as well. I'm sure more news will come out over the next few months. But Noah, best of luck making basketball on NBC really one of the most exciting things in your next year. And with everything you're doing, make sure you stay healthy and happy and keep killing it. We love to see what you're doing.
Appreciate it, guys. Enjoy New Orleans and be careful on Bourbon Street if you get out there.
A little fun, not too much fun, but we'll
Just the
enjoy
right
it.
amount.
Thank you, man.
You got it.